Hi everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a phenomenal weekend. Happy Saturday to you, or Sunday if you're watching. Still relevant, honestly, because this weekend analysis, I like to kind of look at these low volume scenarios essentially, because generally speaking, we're going to find less volume on the weekends. And if you didn't catch my Bitcoin analysis, it is still looking pretty primed and ready to rock and roll. So just keep in mind, Bitcoin has a rising wedge, cup and handle, bull flag. There's a lot of different patterns you could extract here, but the key takeaway is that we are still on the right side of tracks, and I think Bitcoin is more likely to continue higher than lower. I mentioned that and preface with that because I think it's important, because SUI has done notoriously a lot better when Bitcoin does okay. Granted, SUI does really good when Bitcoin does poorly also, but it helps that Bitcoin's doing well. So just friendly advice, pay attention to Bitcoin, helps you understand what altcoins are doing, even though SUI is interesting. So what isn't as interesting here is this strong support, 343 folks. That is the number. That would be a good tattoo consideration. Just kidding. Obviously, I'd never do that. If I ever got a tattoo, it would probably be like 0.618 or maybe 0.5 fib levels. Yeah. Anyways, consideration for another day. What I'm talking about here is 343 is that previous resistance, turn support. We've seen so much confluence and so much support at that low 340 range. It's crazy. Also crazy is, of course, that point of control, 344. There's a ton of confluence right there, and it makes perfect sense as to why the price bounced right here. So while the price didn't come up quite as high as I expected at 360, it hit 358. It came back down to bounce off the support range, which is essentially what we're looking for. So awesome stuff, excellent news. Let's quickly load up here our backend data, and I just want to say thank you again so much for just being an awesome part of my life. Deeply appreciate the wonderful support too. I mean, got some awesome feedback from our community here recently, because we took a nice H-bar trade there. What was a good 60% in 2 days. We are in a Bitcoin long right now at 96.6, just so you know. And then of course, Tau 70%. SUI 24%, 12 hours. That trade is still open. And then of course we obviously hit some nice Bitcoin short prior to that. So anyways, good stuff. I like to share that with you because obviously it's just, we all share in those benefits, and most of my premium members have been, they've become a lot better traders over the months and or years. And it's just super cool to see people grow. And I just want to say thanks again for letting me be part of that. So what I want to talk about here is liquidation. Excuse me, got a scratch in my throat here. When we talk about liquidation, we want to recognize that there are some heavier levels just above the price. So right there at about 367 to 380, I think I have that reflected on the charts here. 367 to 380, yeah, that's pretty close. We can go a little bit higher since that's grown a little bit, but this is a heavy liquidation area or range. So it's common for those levels to get swept based on the simple fact that people are shorting too heavy, and SUI of all coins is really good at just blasting straight through those and essentially consolidating. Anyways, the whole point of this is that $4 to 410 is that massive concentration of liquidation. So we breached 380. I think $4 is pretty inevitable from that point. Okay. We take a look here. Of course, I mentioned this yesterday too. This liquidation delta is not, it may seem like a lot, but that's actually not too high for the overall sense. Basically, it implies that short sellers are still active, but that the bulls are still more in control. Okay, so again, this kind of delta is perfect. It's not outrageous. It's not super high like Bitcoin was at like 30 billion liquidation delta long when we were first hitting that 90K range. It took a while for that to taper off, but it had to pull back. Okay. This situation is not overextended. It's nothing crazy. This is actually a perfect amount. We can see the same thing here as well. Once again, this point of control or open interest, reflectively the same thing. $3.41 right there at that level. Just kind of screaming at us, letting us know that's where everyone is feeling comfortable taking a long position, or just in general, people are buying the most SUI at that level. Okay, that's a good sign. That's a support. Until we break below it, we can presume that that's going to work as a support. So hourly time frame, we'll look at that here in a minute. It's daily time frame for now. We're still maintaining above the 50-day and the 20-day SMA. So the 20 is just kind of hanging out right there. We keep closing barely above it every single day. So just know we may break below that at some point. And if so, we got to have the conversation, the real conversation that, hey, this coin could still pull back. Okay, we don't want to be blindly bullish when that happens. So again, the 20-day SMA, me personally on the daily, it's just kind of an indication that we got to be mindful of a potential shift. When it comes to momentum, that's a different story altogether. We got to have a good momentum to the upside. Stochastic swinging up, and of course MACD is diverging. So it's kind of conflicting, but I trust stochastic in this sense more because we're establishing higher highs and higher lows in the local time frame, and that reflects more positively. But we do got to recognize here, and this is not a good sign in general. Money flow index is super low. Keep in mind, MFI being below their RSI is generally a bearish sign. However, you got to understand this too, that with the money flow index, it's going to take an average of the last 14 candles, okay? And as you can see, the last 14 candles are pretty bearish. So we have 3 or 4 daily time frames that are essentially bullish. That's still not enough to outweigh the previous 11 days of bearish momentum. So the whole point of me mentioning that is that money flow index can be a false positive in this case. We can still be bullish right now. It's just hard to offset that high amount of volume that came away from this coin in the previous sell-off. So that's where smaller time frames do benefit. In other words, I wouldn't say take the daily time frame with a grain of salt, but you kind of almost need to in a way, and you can't just like trust that it's going to be like the only catalyst, if you will. Okay, because again, we got some conflicting information on the daily time frame. However, the 4-hour time frame does reflect positive. We're maintaining mostly above 50 in the RSI. Money flow index is right there with it. Stochastic swinging up for the second time, that does carry more weight. And then of course MACD is still converging, even though that's a pretty weak indication. I like to see here on this time frame that we are above both the 20 and the 50-day SMA. That's again is super important. That gives us a lot of confluence here at this 343 mark, and obviously we can see that reflected as our point of control recently. So when you have local point of control working as a support, you have to presume it's going to continue until it doesn't. Right? That's just generally the concept. That's how trading is. Everything continues until it doesn't. I think I highlighted that in my Bitcoin video earlier. It kind of sounds like a redundancy, doesn't it? This is only going to stop when it stops. It's like, okay, I know it sounds dumb, but truthfully, it actually is very sensible in this industry. We take a look here at the Ichimoku cloud. We can confirm that this is not a pretty sight. Okay, generally speaking, when the price goes range bound, which we've seen this candle wake up, or a strong push up, slight pullback. We're kind of working ourselves into somewhat of a pennant pattern too. I mean, you can kind of see that here. This kind of lets me know that we're in pretty good shape to see the price continue higher, because again, it kind of derived from the downside, right? So again, while this is not pretty, I'm literally just pulling up lines on the chart right now. This, when the price starts to compress itself like it is, it's due for a breakout. And a breakout to the upside makes a lot more sense since we're on the right side of the majority of the tracks. We're also above that, again, that point of control, 343. So this reinforces the simple fact that we're more likely to go up than down. Now, again, this is a weekend. Please understand, Bitcoin can have sporadic movements, and most altcoins follow suit. But it does seem more likely that the price is going to continue higher. Bitcoin is breaking free from this rising wedge pattern here, and that's generally a bullish sign. We may see a bullish backtest of this little support level here for a potential double bottom, continue higher. That happens, SUI is gonna rip. Okay. So I really think this coin is primed and ready to go. So what I'll do is I'll clean up the charts. I'll post our playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. Looks a little something like this if you're not familiar. And then obviously just help you understand kind of where we're at. Future reference too, we do have a $12,000 prize pool for the month of December. Sorry, that's deposit rewards. That's per person, literally. But it just depends obviously on how much you deposit, etc. All the details are down below, so check that out. Really cool opportunity though. They paid out $60K last month to a progressive prize pool. This month is $12,000 per person if you obviously deposit a pretty significant amount. Anyways, not everyone's going to qualify, but just something that's helpful and beneficial. Thanks again to my awesome community for just being an amazing part of my life. Deeply appreciate you all, and we will look forward to seeing the next one. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. We'll see you soon. Take care.